How's it going, everybody? In today's video I want to talk about the top 5 easiest motorcycles to learn to ride on. And no, the Shadow is not on the list. So we've all heard the term beginner bike, right? You can talk to 100 different people and they'll suggest 100 different bikes for beginner riders. They'll say a Harley-Davidson Sportster or a Yamaha MT-07 or even this Kawasaki Vulcan S are good beginner bikes, and they would be right. However, if you've never touched a motorcycle before or have zero experience on a bike, to some of you even the thought of riding one of these can be quite intimidating. Maybe you don't want to learn to ride on a bike that does 0 to 60 in 4 seconds. Maybe you want to learn on one that does 0 to 60 by lunchtime, and I can understand that. Maybe the thought of going right out to the MSF course without any experience is a bit intimidating, and maybe you don't even have access to training or the MSF course. Perhaps you would like to learn to ride at your own pace, right in front of your house, like I did. So I've made a list of the easiest bikes to learn on. Bikes that even the most apprehensive of us all can learn to ride on without fear of being overwhelmed. I think there's 2 stages of learning to ride: the bike you learn on and the bike you begin on once you're ready to hit the road. Beginner bikes are bikes you can buy after you know the basics, that are bigger and faster than a learner bike. Even most beginner-friendly bikes can outride a new rider and sometimes are even too much for a brand new rider to feel comfortable on. I'm going to classify the bikes on this list as starter/learner bikes because of how easy they are to ride, and most likely because nobody will want to keep these for very long after you've got the basics down, or maybe you'll want to keep them as a second bike or something to teach others to ride on. That's up to you, but you will definitely want something bigger and faster in as little as a few weeks. But these bikes might get you several months to a year of enjoyment before you get bored with them. They're not good all-around bikes though, because they have limitations, especially the lack of horsepower and the limitations on being able to pass other traffic, ride on the highway, and or get yourself out of sketchy situations on the road. Learner bikes are good for parking lots and neighborhoods. Call them practice bikes if you want. They're even easy to load up in a truck and take to a safe practice area. There's a reason why the MSF uses some of these bikes to teach people to ride on, because they're so easy to handle. So this is a list I've come up with for the top 5 bikes that you can buy for cheap, used, with just the intention of learning the basics that you can resell and get your money back on once you've got the basics down. These bikes are cheap, usually less than $2 grand, have low horsepower, lightweight, low seat heights, and are very forgiving. In most cases, once you buy one of these used, the seller will gladly deliver it to your house for you. I've bought a couple of bikes myself, and the sellers did just that for me. The advantage to learning to ride on one of these small lightweight bikes is it allows you to gain confidence at an early stage, making the learning process not only easier, but more enjoyable. I've broken these down into style categories so you can choose the type that you would think that would best suit the style of riding you're planning on doing. Dual Sport. The Yamaha XT250. Just like a bicycle with an engine, it's what I learned on at the MSF course, and it's pretty amazing. Low seat height and very well balanced, also bulletproof reliability. With its comfortable seating position, this one is sure to make you feel like you're in complete control. Cruiser. Honda Rebel 250 and the Yamaha V-Star 250. Classic cruiser looks and handling characteristics, as well as dead nuts reliable. You can always get your money back on these because there's always someone looking for one of these as a starter bike. They look like a real cruiser from a distance and let everyone know you're at least making a decent attempt at looking cool. With their feet forward peg position and raked out forks, they'll give you a real feeling of what riding a cruiser is like. The Naked Bike. The Honda Grom. Probably the easiest bike to ride that's ever been made. Fuel injected and gets over 100 miles per gallon, nearly indestructible, cheap replacement parts, and the one on the list you're most likely to keep as a second bike even after you upgrade. They're just that much fun, even though you're going to look like a dork riding one. Like me. Just make sure you buy one that hasn't been modified too much. A lot of younger adults buy these things and beat the snot out of them and put cheap garbage aftermarket parts on them, so buyer beware. Best to get a used one from an older adult or a dealership. The seat and foot peg positions are very similar to bigger upright naked style bikes. An honorable mention to the Kawasaki Z125 Pro. Basically the same bike and even cheaper used in most cases. Classic style. The Suzuki TU250. A beautiful bike, very comfortable, with classic looks. It will never look ugly or dated, and it doesn't look like a learner bike. You can never go wrong with a bike that has retro styling. Another one you might just hang on to for a second bike. It'd make for a great urban transportation zipping around the city and will fit right in with all the hipsters on their Vespas at the local coffee shop. Sport bike. The Kawasaki Ninja 250. This is a throwaway bike and uglier than a barrel full of squished buttholes. But if you're set on getting used to sport bike-like characteristics minus the handlebar position, then this is the bike for you. Why not the Ninja 300? Well, because neither one is going to stay in your garage for very long, so you might as well get the cheaper of the two. Trust me, I know. The Ninja 300 was my beginner bike, but I did grow tired of it after one season. I guess I should have listened to everybody that said I would, but I don't regret it. It had more than enough power for my needs, but the handlebar position and high revving engine got tiresome. Anyway, I think the 300 falls more in the beginner category and not the starter/learner category because it's not as forgiving as the Ninja 250. So there you have it, my list of the best motorcycles to learn to ride on. This list is just my opinion, one that I've come up with based on my experience. I'm not an expert, but I think the bikes on my list are all damn good starter bikes, and I don't think that very many would argue with my choices. However, there's a lot of videos on the best of the best to learn on, so take those suggestions into consideration when considering your first bike. Just keep in mind, what one person may consider a beginner bike might be too much for you to handle, so all the bikes on my list have that in mind.